You guys remember the other day, the tankers belonging to Iran were seized by the Greeks. And then in response, Iran went and seized 2 Greek oil tankers, right? Tit for tat. You take our tankers, we'll take your tankers. Well, guess what happened? Greek court overturns decision on U.S. seizure of Iranian oil cargo. Aha. Funny how that works, right? Funny how that works. They say the seized oil tanker, 2 of them, by the way, U.S. seizure. You saw the United States seizure because the Greeks actually took these oil tankers at the behest of the United States. That's very important. And when they seized the tankers, what did they do? They emptied the cargo. They took that oil. Oh, yeah. They took the oil and gave it to the Americans. Do you understand? Once again, this really shows you how the EU and European countries are really just vassals of the United States. The United States, Uncle Sam says jump, and they ask how high. So, look what happened. A Greek court on Wednesday overturned an earlier court ruling that allowed the confiscation by the U.S. of part of a cargo of Iranian oil on an Iranian-flagged tanker off the Greek coast. The incident led to an angry response by Iran, with Iranian forces last month seizing 2 Greek tankers. It's really funny because in the article, they try to insist that, no, we have an independent judiciary and we don't, it's nothing to do with what Iran did. And yeah, okay. Look, man, this has happened before. This is nothing new. And it's not, they're not the first to do it. I remember in 2019, there was an Iranian oil tanker seized by the UK in Gibraltar. And let me ask you, what do you think happened a few weeks after the British took that Iranian oil tanker? Pop quiz. It's a very, very, very easy answer. The Iranians saw a British tanker coming right there and grabbed it. Once Iran grabbed this British oil tanker, what do you think happened afterwards? There you go. The British magically let that Iranian oil tanker in Gibraltar go. What's going on here is that if you don't reciprocate, right? If there's no tit for tat, they're not going to respect you. So the Americans, the British use force. They use aggression against Iran, and they leave no choice for Iran but to do the same thing to them. You take our oil tanker, fine, we'll take yours. And then you're going to release ours. And the same thing happened with these 2 tankers. Now, here's the catch. Where's the oil? Where's the oil? So they're saying here, the United States in May confiscated part of the Iranian oil cargo held on board and transferred it to another ship. Whoa. Hold on a second. Let me read that again. They did what? The United States in May confiscated part of the Iranian oil cargo held on board and transferred it to another ship. Oh, really? That's really amazing. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to break into someone's house and I'm going to transfer their belongings to my vehicle. How about that? That's a very creative way of saying steal, right? When you take something that doesn't belong to you, it's transferring, confiscating. Look at this, man. What is this? Is this creative writing? This can't be journalism, can it? I mean, again, Reuters do some good work, but I don't know who wrote this one. Confiscated and transferred it to another ship. My goodness. Wow. And here's the interesting part. That oil, we still don't know where it is. Well, I have bad news for the Greeks and the Americans because my gut feeling, given me as a journalist observing and reporting, is that if the Americans and the Greeks don't give back that oil cargo to Iran, Iran will take the Greek oil that it has in its possession from those Greek ships, right? And then you can have your tankers back and Iran can take its empty tankers back. The Iranians invented chess. They're very patient people, right? So whether they do it now or in a year, they'll do it. And I want to say another thing. I find it incredible how they try to paint Iran as angry in this article, right? They say the incident led to an angry response by Iran. So they try to plant that seed in your head that Iran is irrational and angry, right? And then down here, when it comes to this quote from Greece, they say, Greece had called Iran's seizure of the 2 Greek tankers in the Gulf piracy. So now they plant in your head that Iran is the pirate. No. Listen, man, you got the whole situation upside down. What Greece and the United States did was piracy. It was illegal and theft. They not only seized the vessel, but the cargo as well. And what Iran did was give you a taste of your own medicine. That's it. And I bet you, I can guarantee you, Iran will release the tankers and the cargo as soon as they get theirs back. This is really not complicated. Iran is not going to Greece and stealing stuff from them or attacking Greece. They're literally just sailing their cargo peacefully in international waters. That's it. And then people are coming on board and stealing their stuff. And this is not the first time, because this blew my mind. I swear to God, this next headline that will show you, you're not going to believe this. The Americans have been stealing Iranian fuel for several years now, right? Iran is sending fuel to Venezuela, for example, because Venezuela has lots of crude, but it can't refine it or sell it. And in exchange, Venezuela sends gold. So, fuel for gold. And while these Iranian ships are on their way to Venezuela, they're carrying this fuel, several tankers. Uncle Sam knows where those vessels are and goes and seizes the fuel tankers and sells the oil, right? So straight up piracy. If I read to you, Jack Sparrow boarded the vessel, seized the cargo, and sold it. He's pirate. It's Jack Sparrow, right? That's what they're doing. Except they're not Jack Sparrow, who's a friendly pirate. It's straight up piracy like in the old days. But now you have states doing it instead of bandits. They're just bandits in suits. And the crazy thing is, look where the money went. September 11th victims seek seizure of Iran oil. What? Hold on a second. So now they're blaming Iran for 9/11? That's what it looks like. Victims of the September 11th, 2001 attacks asked a U.S. judge to order the seizure of Iranian crude oil from a tanker owned by an American private equity firm to help satisfy a $3.6 billion judgment against Iran over the attacks. Man, you must be smoking something good. I don't know what that is, but in case you want to take somebody's money from their fuel, from their oil to compensate 9/11 victims, you should go look at your lovely friend Saudi Arabia, because I can assure you Iran has nothing to do with Al-Qaeda. As a matter of fact, Iran and Al-Qaeda are enemies, in case you hadn't noticed. Again, this is what's so hilarious. Again, even with Saddam Hussein, they did this whole thing. Oh, Al-Qaeda, Saddam is giving Al-Qaeda nuclear weapons. Saddam is giving Al-Qaeda shelter. What are you talking about? These guys are enemies. They don't believe in the same things. No. What are you saying? This is the level of stupidity. It's like, oh yeah, anyone, who's brown and has a beard over there must be the same, right? They're all the same, right? There's those Muslimist, Islamicist terrorists, right? That's the basic ignorant understanding in the West. I'm stunned. Like, they're not only stealing the oil, but they also want to give it to 9/11 victims. What has that got to do with anything? Just no. So another example of, unfortunately, why you have to do tit for tat. The Americans, this is what they did. They told Canada to extradite a Huawei executive, okay? So Huawei is the mobile phone manufacturer, and here's her picture. That's her, okay? So she was in Canada, and she got arrested. Why did she get arrested? Because the Americans wanted her. And in response, you know what China did? China went and arrested 2 Canadian nationals and gave them the death sentence. Straight up. Again, you want to fuck around? You'll find out. Tit for tat. And guess what happened? Once again, guess what happened when China gave those 2 Canadian nationals the death sentence? Where do you think Meng is right now, the Huawei executive? Before you can say maple syrup, the Canadians freed her. Get the idea? Unfortunately, this is the reality that they end up creating. These countries like Canada, like the UK, like the United States, they violate international law. They act like thugs and pirates. And what they're actually doing is they're teaching and allowing other countries to start doing the same thing. Now, again, don't get me wrong. What Iran is doing is self-defense, really. But my point is that you're going to see a point in time where other countries start using these same tactics. Even if you want to say it's retaliatory, which is understandable. We are entering, or we've already entered a world where this is the norm. Like, oh, this guy does this, then that guy does this in response. Is this really what we want? Is this really sane? Is this really safe? Now, again, you can't blame the Iranians and you can't blame the Chinese because they're just responding to a threat. They're being attacked. So, nevertheless, we're in a reality where, if you don't stand up for yourself, well, they will screw you and they'll keep screwing you. And this is something I talked about with David Mendoza, right? So he was extradited to the US. He knows the prison system very, very well. Countries like China, like Iran, they have a pair of balls now. They've grown a pair of balls, and the situation in the world is shifting that, Iran and China are just not going to accept this kind of bullshit. This is 2022. The multipolar world is coming, and people are not afraid to stand up to these bullies, right? Iran is not afraid to stand up to the US. Iran is not afraid to stand up to the UK. China is not afraid to stand up to the US. You can see here in the BBC article, they say that it prompted accusations that China had detained Canadian citizens in retaliation, which China denied. It doesn't matter that China denied it. We all know that that was the reason, right? And it worked. It worked. It's very unfortunate. Those guys must have been terrified, no doubt. But this is the world that they're creating, and that the West is creating. These international norms they talk about. This is what they mean. Not law, not international law, international norms. Which is basically do what we say or else. Well, countries like this, they're not doing what you say. Just as an example, because she was the CFO of Huawei, okay? So the equivalent would be Sheryl Sandberg, I believe, in the US for Facebook. Obviously, Facebook and Huawei are different fields, but nevertheless, let's just imagine. Can you imagine Sheryl Sandberg or Mark Zuckerberg flying to China and they get just fucking arrested, or they fly to a neighboring country and then China gets them arrested? What the hell? Do you know why they're doing this? Please pay attention. This is so important. The reason they got Meng Wanzhou arrested is because the United States is afraid of China gaining a foothold in the market of big tech. The United States, one of the ways that it achieves world dominance is Silicon Valley. There are many prongs to that, of course, right? NSA mass surveillance is one of them, and that relates to intelligence. So there are many prongs to this. It's not just about money and selling so many iPhones that you have $1 trillion company and so on. It's not just about money. It's how it relates to the intelligence apparatus, to the deep state. It's how the United States can make sure that it's the world hegemon, that people are using its software, its laptops, its technology. So when you have TikTok, for example, coming along and becoming the number one app on the App Store, this drives them insane. Do you know what Trump did? He said, if you don't sell TikTok to an American company, I'm going to ban you. That's theft. That's a robbery. That's a straight up robbery. TikTok did nothing bad. He literally wants to kick them out of the market, rob them of their market share just for existing and not being American. That's robbery. And he said, they didn't care what company it was. Any American company. And that shows you it's all about dominance. And they were threatened by the Chinese. And I'm telling you, man, one of the reasons they tried to mess with her is to send a message to Huawei, which they already banned. They also sanctioned Huawei, remember? It's all about maintaining US dominance. You have to understand this. And I find it unbelievable. Like, the Americans are worried about Chinese spyware in Huawei. What the fuck, man? We literally have a diagram showing every Silicon Valley, every tech company in the US working with the NSA to spy on people. And you got the nerve to China? What's Google doing? Huh? What's Apple doing? What are all these US companies doing working with the NSA? Man, come on. So the hypocrisy is one thing, but you have to understand this is piracy. This is 21st century state piracy.